According to two people briefed on the situation, the special counsel has subpoenaed former President Donald J. Trump's daughter Ivanka and son-in-law, Jared Kushner, to testify before a federal grand jury about Mr. Trump's attempts to maintain power after losing the 2020 election and his part in a pro-Trump mob's attack on the Capitol on January 6, 2021. The decision by Jack Smith, the special counsel, to subpoena Ms. Trump and Mr. Kushner highlights the extent to which Mr. Smith is penetrating Mr. Trump's inner circle and is the most recent indication that no potential high-level witness is off-limits. 2 weeks have passed since Mr. Smith's subpoena for former Vice President Mike Pence to testify before the grand jury was made public, and now word of the subpoena. As the Senate President Mr. Pence plans to use his position to argue that the subpoena violates the Constitution's speech or debate clause. Whether Mr. Trump will attempt to prevent Mrs. Trump and Mr. Kushner from testifying on the basis of executive privilege, as he has attempted to do with some other witnesses, is unknown. During the Trump administration, they both worked as White House representatives. Mr. Trump decided against making an effort to prevent them from testifying before the House Special Committee that looked into the attack on January 6 and what caused it. A request for comment from a representative of Mrs. Trump and Mr. Kushner went unanswered. Mr. Smith's spokesperson Josh Stewart declined to comment. A request for comment from Mr. Trump's aides was not met with a response. On January 6, Ms. Trump was present in the Oval Office as her father called Mr. Pence late in the morning to put pressure on him to prevent or postpone congressional certification of the Electoral College results, certifying Joseph R. Biden Jr.'s victory. Mr. Pence, who turned down Mr. Trump's demands, was to preside over the Senate's business that day in a ceremonial capacity. Ms. Trump went with her father to his supporters gathering at the Ellipse near the White House. From there, hundreds of his supporters marched to the Capitol, where they attacked the structure, while some chanted "Hang Mike Pence," in protest of the vice president's refusal to carry out Mr. Trump's wishes. That day Mr. Kushner made his way back from the Middle East, arriving at the White House only after the pro-Trump mob had been rioting for several hours. He and his wife worked to persuade Mr. Trump to tell the rioters to go home and then to pledge to hand over power to Mr. Biden in a peaceful manner. Both appeared for videotaped interviews and testified before the House Select Committee on January 6, sharing their recollections of the day. At some of its open hearings, the committee repeated played excerpts from their testimony. Editor's choice: she was surprised by the options when looking for a studio in downtown Brooklyn for less than $400,000. Science fiction magazines fight off an influx of stories produced by Chapit's "How Do I Approach the Person My Husband Cheated on Me With?" Despite Mr. Trump's repeated assertions to the contrary, one particularly well-received video showed Ms. Trump making it clear that she accepted Attorney General William P. Barr's conclusion that there was no evidence of widespread election fraud. According to those in contact with Mr. Trump, the clips and what was said in them infuriated him. After leaving the White House and moving to Florida with their 3 kids, Mr. Kushner and Ms. Trump have kept in touch with the former president's family ever since. But unlike Mr. Kushner, who attended Mr. Trump's campaign launch in November, Ms. Trump declined and issued a statement announcing that she would not be supporting her father's campaign this time around. Before starting their jobs at the White House, both were deeply involved in his 2016 campaign. Trump stated on his social media platform Truth Social in December that he did not want them to be a part of his third campaign. In his letter, Mr. Trump stated that, contrary to fake news reporting, "I never asked Jared or Ivanka to be part of the 2024 campaign for president and, in fact, specifically asked them not to do it. They shouldn't be subjected to this ride," he continued, "because it has never happened before." The attack on the Capitol building on January 6 sparked numerous investigations into the actions former President Donald J. Trump and some of his allies took in an effort to rig the 2020 election.